Some mistakes change everything. Not because they go wrong, but because they go exactly right. My name is Connor. I'm 27. A freelance tech developer with a dwindling bank account, a half-empty duffel bag, and absolutely nothing going according to plan. I had registered for a mid-level leadership conference. Nothing glamorous. Just something to add to my resume. Maybe open a door or two. I did not expect the hotel to open an entirely different life. The arrival. The lobby hit me like a wall of cold air, marble floors, soft lighting, the kind of quiet that only expensive places have. I looked exactly like what I was. Someone who didn't belong. The concierge noticed me immediately. But instead of the polite confusion I expected, her face shifted into something warmer. Something certain. Patricia, concierge, welcome, Ms. Walsh. We're so delighted you've arrived. I blinked. Ms. Walsh. She reached below the marble desk and produced a sleek, wine-colored garment bag. Pressed, branded, perfect. Executive floor, she said. Room 2412. Conference materials ready. Breakfast at 6. First session at 8. I opened my mouth to correct her. Nothing came out. By the time I found my voice, she had already moved to the next guest. The moment had passed. I was holding someone else's life in my hands and riding an elevator up to the 24th floor. The suite, room 2412, was more space than my entire apartment. Glass walls. City lights flickering awake below. A king-sized bed that looked like it had never been touched. I hung the garment bag in the closet and told myself I'd just look. Just confirm the mistake. The zipper whispered open. Inside was a wardrobe that belonged to another world. A fitted burgundy dress. Silk blouses. A pencil skirt. A midnight blue blazer. Pumps wrapped in tissue paper, size 9, my size. I stood there for a long time, holding the dress, reading the note tucked inside the leather portfolio. Note from Marcus, VP of HR, go get them this week, Julia. Can't wait to hear how it goes. Julia Walsh. Lead facilitator. Advanced leadership strategies for a changing workplace. I searched her name online. No LinkedIn. No articles. No record. Whoever Julia Walsh was supposed to be, she was more idea than person. I checked my bank account. $24,783. The conference fee had nearly emptied me. My flight home wasn't until Friday. And somehow, Pinnacle Corporation was already covering the suite. I looked at the dress again. Just to see, I whispered. The transformation. The dress slipped on smoothly, settling against my body with quiet ease. I'd always been lean from running. No broad frame, no heavy shoulders. The fabric fell exactly where it was meant to. The heels took longer. 3 inches. I winced, steadied myself, and crossed the suite slowly. Heel. Toe. Smaller steps. Posture tall. By the window, I studied my reflection. Not Connor exactly. Not Julia either. But close enough to pass if no one looked too hard. Then the phone rang. Rebecca, Pinnacle Corp. Ms. Walsh? This is Rebecca, from Pinnacle. I'm confirming your materials were received and accommodations are to your satisfaction. I hesitated for exactly half a second. My voice had always been light. On calls, people often assumed. I let that work for me. Julia/Connor. Yes. Everything's in order. Rebecca. Wonderful. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. 8 a.m. sharp. The call ended. I hadn't lied. I had simply continued the story others were already telling. First morning. I set 3 alarms and barely slept. Morning came too fast. I shaved carefully. Applied the makeup from the kit in the garment bag. Light, professional, just enough to soften edges. Twisted my hair into a low bun. Stepped into the burgundy dress. It felt natural. That surprised me. Patricia. Good morning, Ms. Walsh. The Meridian Room is past the restaurant, to your left. I nodded and accepted the directions like they belonged to me. The conference room buzzed. 25 people. Laptops open. Coffee steaming. A man in a gray suit cut through the crowd, hand extended, smile wide. Marcus, VP. HR, Julia. Marcus Chun. We are so glad you could step in on short notice. Everyone, this is Julia Walsh. Fresh approach, real depth. You're in for a great week. I stepped to the head of the table. And for the first time since walking through those cold glass doors, I stopped feeling like I was pretending. The work. Good morning, I said. And I heard authority land in my own voice. Before we get into frameworks and theory, I want to start with you. What's the hardest leadership problem on your desk right now? Hands went up immediately. Participant, cobalt jacket, managing a hybrid team. Half remote, half in office. It feels like two different cultures. Julia/Connor. How many of you are dealing with some version of that? Almost every hand in the room. From there, the session took on its own life. I stepped into facilitator mode without thinking, redirecting louder voices, inviting quieter ones in, mapping shared frustrations onto the whiteboard. I listened. I reframed. I connected dots. The burgundy dress moved with me. It was no longer a distraction. It was just what I was wearing. Marcus. That was outstanding, Julia. You had them leaning forward from the first minute. Julia/Connor. They're an engaged group. You just have to meet people where they are. The week unfolds. The days found their rhythm. Each morning, a new outfit from Julia's curated wardrobe. Charcoal skirt and cream blouse on Tuesday. Soft pink and black on Wednesday. Crisp navy on Thursday. Makeup took minutes instead of effort. The bun held without pins falling loose. In the conference room, people began to open up. They admitted mistakes. They asked for feedback. They changed how they were leading their teams in real time and came back the next day to report what had worked. Tom, participant, I asked questions instead of issuing orders this morning. We solved a problem that's been dragging us down for 3 months. I felt something settle in my chest. Deep. Steady. This wasn't about pretending anymore. These conversations were reshaping how real people led real teams. And Julia Walsh was the one making it happen. The dinner. Wednesday night, the executive team took me to dinner. I'd imagined something formal, almost interrogative. It wasn't. They were curious. Energized. Firing questions about learning design, behavioral change, long-term impact. I pulled from books I'd devoured, conferences I'd attended, experiences I'd lived, and repackaged all of it through Julia's lens without missing a beat. Halfway through dessert, Marcus set down his fork. Marcus, we should be talking about keeping you. Diane, CEO, what would it take for you to join us full-time, Julia? Our training function is stuck in the past. We need someone like you. My spoon hovered in midair. Julia/Connor. I'd need time to consider something like that. Diane, of course. Just know, this isn't a casual thought. What you've done in 3 days is exceptional. The offer. Friday. Final session. I wore the burgundy dress again. It felt symbolic, the piece that had first allowed Julia Walsh to exist. The closing circle was quiet. Real. One participant who had barely spoken all week cleared his throat. David, participant, I used to think leadership meant being the smartest person in the room. What I learned here is that it's about asking the right questions. Julia showed me that. The room went still. When the last chair slid back and the door closed, I stood alone in the Meridian room. Flip charts lined the walls, diagrams, frameworks, breakthroughs captured in bright marker. 5 days of intensity, trust, and visible change. Then a knock. Marcus. Diane would like to see you before you head out. The CEO's office was glass and steel and city sky. She slid a folder across the table. Diane, Director of Leadership Development. Design our full curriculum. Deliver programs. Mentor facilitators. Relocation covered. Signing bonus included. Take the weekend, but I hope you'll say yes. You're rare at this. I looked at the number on the page. It was more than triple anything I'd ever earned. The decision. Back in the suite, I sat on the edge of the bed in the hotel robe. The garment bag lay open. Empty, not because the clothes were gone, but because they no longer felt separate from me. My phone buzzed. My roommate. How's the conference? You've been totally off the grid. I stared at the screen. How could I explain this week? How a twist of fate had handed me a life, I hadn't known I was allowed to want. I opened the offer letter. Director of Leadership Development, Julia Walsh. The name felt alive now. Not borrowed. Not accidental. Real. Julia had walked into a conference room full of strangers and earned their trust. She had sat across from a CEO and held her ground. She had watched real people change how they led because of conversations she started. I opened my laptop and began to type. Julia/Connor, letter, Dear Diane, I am honored by your offer and thrilled to accept the position of Director of Leadership Development. The words came naturally. A vision formed: a leadership academy, peer coaching circles, industry partnerships, a full curriculum built from the ground up. It was the most certain I had felt in years. A new life. Saturday morning. Check out. Patricia, I hope you enjoyed your stay, Ms. Walsh. Julia/Connor. Very much. And actually, could you have the car take me to Pinnacle Corporation instead of the airport? 2 weeks later, I packed everything I owned into 3 suitcases. My roommate shook my hand at the door. Roommate, good luck with the new gig. You seem different. More confident or something. Julia/Connor. Something like that. The drive to the new city took 6 hours. I had already signed a lease. Already lined up the first month's agenda. Already begun to build the thing I'd been hired to lead. In my new apartment that Sunday night, I arranged Julia's wardrobe carefully. Each piece had a story now. A milestone. The burgundy dress rested in a place of honor. I practiced walking in the black pumps one more time. Checked the mirror. A professional. Poised. Ready. Epilogue. Weeks became months. Julia's programs gained recognition across the company. Engagement scores climbed. A leadership academy launched in partnership with local universities. Articles were published. Awards appeared on shelves. At her 2-year review, Diane slid another folder across the table. Diane, Vice President of Leadership Development. You've built something extraordinary here, Julia. Julia accepted the recognition gracefully, though inside, she still marveled at the path that had brought her here. A wrong room, a mistaken name, a burgundy dress hanging quietly in a hotel closet. That's how it started. But Julia Walsh, the woman who walked into boardrooms and changed how people led, she had always been real. Connor had just needed the right door to find her.